Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. This time it comes from Toledo. On July 5th, a little after midnight, which means that this incident had obviously, the people in it, they all started their things on July 4th. And this was a July 4th block party. And after midnight is when this thing popped off. Toledo Police respond to shots fired, and it's multiple shots fired, multiple people shooting at each other. This is just a short, about 4-minute body cam video of police responding to that incident. I'm going to play the entirety of the video, and then I'll go back, hit replay, and talk about things that are going on in the video to kind of explain what's going on, and then I'll talk about things that I think were done right, things I think were done wrong. This particular video comes from Police Overwatch over on YouTube. If you have not already, I highly recommend subscribing to Police Overwatch on YouTube. They have lots of good videos just like this one on their page. Without further ado, here we go. Should also note that, of course, this is body camera, so right now there's no audio. Audio will kick in here in a few seconds.
We appreciate the Lord, the terrific bag. We have another caller says that he saw a black male with a mask, with no shirt, shooting a gun in the air. Also, progress of 300 people fighting.
210 or 23, believe eyes.
210.
It's like right up here. I think it was right beside this house.
113, 230.
Like this though.
130. Want to give us an idea on the phone?
Get out. Go! Find cover! Give it! Move! Right there, to the right. Show me your hands! Don't move! Don't move! Don't move! Right there, move! Find cover! Find cover! Get down! Stay down! We got multiple shooters everywhere. To the street west of Detroit. Stay down! Everybody stay down! Where? Right there! Right here. Stay down! Stay down! Stay behind the tire! Stay behind cover! Stay down! Everybody stay down! Find cover!
Get behind the car!
Behind the car!
right, I'll go back, hit that replay, and I'll take the volume down just a little bit. So, lots going on in this video. Starting off in the very beginning here, what we see is from this officer's perspective in the vehicle as they're responding to this call. Now, as I noted earlier, the audio wasn't there because of the body cam, and I've explained that before in other videos. But as they're responding, there's radio traffic indicating that there's over 300 people at this scene, and that there's multiple shots being fired. And that's all they know. We don't see any dash cam footage from the vehicle. Don't know if there was a dash cam rolling in the vehicle. I would assume that there probably is, but for whatever reason, the news release or whatever that came from Toledo Police didn't include it. They just, for some reason, let this one out.
He says that he saw a black male with a man with no shirt shooting a gun in the air. Also, progress, 300 people fighting.
210 or 23, we got this.
210.
Now here in a second, you're going to see him move in his seat, and you're going to hear his gun. That right there. I'll hit replay. He moves. And that, for those of you who don't use Safariland holsters, that plastic ka-chunk noise you heard was him pulling his gun out of his holster. So he is getting himself prepared to roll up on this scene where there is a gun battle going on. And that's something I would see is something good. So he's getting his gun out in anticipation of getting into a gunfight, because he doesn't know as soon as he pulls up if they're going to take rounds, and he's got to return fire through the windshield or through the side, whatever. He's getting his gun out and ready to play. Now, we see his partner get out of the vehicle, and it does not appear as though he has a rifle. It looks like he has a pistol as well. And so this is something I've talked about in numerous videos before. Officers going to calls where there are guns involved, and they get out of their cruiser and do not bring their rifle with them. Now, I do not know 100% sure if there was a rifle in this cruiser or not, but it is 2021, and even your most podunk agencies out there that have like 1 to 2 officers or deputies, whatever, even they got rifles in their cars. So I would imagine that an agency the size of Toledo would probably have rifles in everyone's patrol cars. But I don't know that for sure. It's just a pretty good little hunch. Now, if that is the case, if they did have a rifle in this car, then both of them screwed up by not getting it out. Rifle ammunition beats pistol ammunition any day of the week. I don't care what day it is. The only reason we carry pistols on us is because they are comfortable and convenient. We can go 8, 10, 12, 16 hours a day with a pistol on our side and not think anything of it. Now, of course, all the other crap added on the belt, you start taking notice of that after a while in a shift, and then after so many years, you know, that takes its toll on you. But a pistol you can wear all day, and it doesn't really stick out too much. It doesn't become very noticeable. It's just there. A rifle, on the other hand, if you tried to carry a rifle for 8 hours a day, hell, not even 8 hours a day, if you just try to carry it for 4 hours in a day, it's not comfortable at all. It's not convenient. Depending on your sling configuration and how you wear it, you can be knocking stuff off tables. The muzzle or the buttstock could, as you turn around, could hit stuff, knock it over, banging into the hall when you're walking down it, banging in the door frames. It's just, if you do the single point as you're walking, the muzzle, keeps hitting your knees or your junk, whatever, man. It's just like a rifle just gets in the way. and getting in and out of vehicles with it on all the time. I mean, that's just that's a lot to deal with, and that's why we carry pistols. Pistols are a whole lot more comfortable and convenient versus rifles. But rifles win. Like, rifles win gunfights. If you know you're going to a gunfight, bring your rifle. So first mistake is them not getting their rifle out. But I guess this driver here kind of redeems himself by getting his gun out of the holster before they pull up on scene, because this is an active gun battle going on when they show up, and it's good that he had his gun out and ready to defend himself and other people. Now,
I think it was right.
and I say gun battle, and if you look, at the title up here, responding to active shooting. So this is probably my 8th to 10th take on this video, because I went into some serious, like, deep rants on different things, and this being called an active shooting is kind of one of those rants that I went off on, and I wanted to, I want to contain this video to just the mindset, tactics, skills, and gear, and not so much on the philosophical, political, kind of rants or whatever. But I do want to note that what they're responding to is, in my opinion, gang violence. And it's a gun battle. It's not an active shooting in the sense that you would associate active shooting with something like Columbine High School or Parkland High School or the Aurora, Colorado movie theater, or Sandy Hook, those, or Pulse nightclub. Those are your quintessential active shooter incidents. Trying to call this incident an active shooting incident like it was a Columbine High School type of ordeal is just wrong. It's apples and oranges. There's no way that this could be, in good faith, coined as an active shooter type of incident. However, the definition of active shooter is very vague, and so it is very easy for the term active shooter to be coined on things like this. And that's a slippery slope, because I have noticed, obviously, the media also likes to jump on this terminology and apply it to things that are not Columbine style killings. They're not Parkland High School style killings, not Sandy Hook style killings. They're using this term active shooter or active shooting for things like simple gang violence, thugs shooting each other in the streets. And that is wrong, because that makes it seem like there's a whole lot more Columbine incidents going on. And the anti-gun crowd has been notorious for fudging numbers, so to speak, and inflating them and making things seem like they are when they're not. So, when the big anti-gun groups come out with these numbers and they say stuff like, "Oh, there was 200 active shooters this year, or 200 active shooting incidents this year," when you think about active shooter and you associate active shooter with events like Columbine, well, that would make you think in your head, "Holy crap, there was almost like 200 something Columbine type of incidents this year." No, that's not the case. That's wrong. That's nowhere near those numbers. What these people are doing is they're taking gang violence, the Bloods and the Crips shooting each other, and it's not just those gangs. It's just other stupid local gangs with stupid names like Fanny Pack Gang, like just little jerks wanting to claim to be something, and they shoot each other, and they coin those incidents as active shooter incidents. So just keep that in mind, that yes, it is an active gun battle, but it's not an active shooting in the sense that it was something like Columbine. And so that's a little rant out of the way.
Inside this house.
Now, you talk about positioning. So, and it's hard to tell what the scene looks like just from the body cam footage at night. And there's no, obviously, no corresponding aerials in this press release. Usually, in a lot of these kind of press releases, the public information officer will include a map of the area and show, key features and places and events or whatever. There's nothing like that on this one. So it's hard to say exactly where they're at, but they obviously pull up very close to the scene because you immediately see people running by. Now, they could have parked a little bit of a distance away, and it just so happens that's where the people, reach them at from running a good distance. But I kind of would have liked to have seen them maybe park a little bit further away and get out and approach this scene, because pulling up so close opens them up to an ambush, so to speak. I mean, they pull up with the big flashy lights. Everyone knows who they are and exactly where they're at with these flashing lights, and they could very easily have just pointed their weapons at them and started shooting. And I mean, when you're responding to stuff like this, you have no idea that it's a gang shooting. For all they know, it could have been a terrorist incident. It could have been some terrorist trying to pull a Mumbai kind of thing, and they just happened to cross this big old block party and was trying to slaughter people, and then boom, blue lights show up. Why not direct the rifles at the blue lights? So I would have liked to have seen them park a little bit further away and kill the lights and make that more tactical approach, so to speak.
113, 23.
I like this though.
113. Want to give us an Eddie on the phone?
Get out.
All right, that's a lot of bang bang. That sounds like the 4th of July, pun intended. So we hear a lot of what sounds like gunfire in the background. Now, some of that at the beginning could have been fireworks. It's hard to say with the acoustics that the little body camera's picking up inside the vehicle. You don't know for sure, but that's a lot of gunfire. And the news release said that the police estimate about 80 rounds were fired from multiple shooters. From this point and going on further through the video, I believe that there was more than 80 rounds fired. So I don't know how they came up with this number of 80 rounds, but I personally believe it was a crap ton more than 80 rounds being fired. They dismount the vehicle and they start heading towards the sound of gunfire. So, and as I noted, they both have their pistols out. Now,
Go, find cover, get it, move.
so now we talk about low lights. So first off the bat, gear should come last, but I'll talk about gear first. Flashlights are, see here, how do I want to say it? There's a lot of flashlights out there, a lot of flashlight companies, and in my opinion, there's only probably about 4 companies that you should be looking at when it comes to flashlights. Surefire, Streamlight, Cloud Defense, and Modlight. If you're not rocking one of those 4, then you should reevaluate the equipment that you're using. We have, obviously, in this background, as you can see in this top left corner, there's, some type of light emitting from a building. There's vehicles coming by. There's a house over here with lights, and over here's a corner. So we have a lot of photonic barriers in this environment, and it's obviously low light. So we need good flashlights that can break these photonic barriers and have enough throw and spiel to be able to positively identify targets and be able to look at a person at a distance and be able to determine positively whether or not they have a weapon in their hand and if they're a threat. So when it comes to these flashlights, they got to have a high candela. Now, the terminology of lumens and candela and lux and all that, you may see advertisements for a flashlight that show a high lumen, and that's not necessarily something you should be fully paying attention to. It's more the candela that you should be paying attention to. And like I said, the four companies that I mentioned, Streamlight, Surefire, Cloud Defense, and Modlight, those are the four that you need to be looking at. So, and it's extremely difficult to go, on YouTube and look up flashlight reviews, because that kind of stuff just doesn't do it any kind of justice what the naked eye can perceive and really make those judgments on. I've been a Surefire fan since a long time, since early 2000s, rocking a G2 Nitrolim. And I guess you could say I've been a Surefire fanboy for a long time. But I can tell you that after playing with a Modlight, I am seriously thinking about changing my ways, so to speak, and going on to a Modlight, because it has some serious candela and some serious throw with a tight beam. And a good tight beam, good hot, bright, tight beam, that throw on it, and some decent spill is what we're looking for low light environments. We want to be able to see that bad guy for sure. And then, of course, also with that bright light, add in some disorientation. Now, going into tactics and stuff like that. So, in low light environments, there's a concept called dirty light. And if you've ever played flashlight tag, or if you was a kid and, I don't know, maybe you was out doing some stuff you wasn't really supposed to doing, and the police came around and turned their spotlights on and was looking for you, and you were kind of hiding from them, you don't understand what I mean by dirty light. Or you watch, like the cartoon, or the old cheesy prison escape scene from a movie where the spotlight is in the watchtower and it's beaming across the yard, and the prisoner knows when to stay out of the light and when to move. That's dirty light concept, and dirty light concept is something that the adversary can use to their advantage based off the light that you're projecting or using. So, if you imagine in a dark field with some obstacles in there, if you're the quote unquote bad guy, and the good guy turns their flashlight on, number one, you know exactly where they're at in relation to you. And if they keep that flashlight turned on for an extended period of time while they're moving around, you get basically live time update on where they're moving to. You see where they started at and where they're progressing to. And as that light is moving around, that beam, you get to see what they're looking at, and most importantly, what they're not looking at. So you can then make your decisions to do certain movements. You can do whatever to maximize your environment for you based off what that person is doing with that flashlight. So we see this officer turning his flashlight on. He keeps it on for a pretty good lengthy amount of time. Not the biggest fan of that. I think there's enough ambient light around there to kind of allow them to navigate. But on that same token, this body camera footage is not the greatest. we can't see what his eyes can see, and his eyes are definitely seeing a whole lot more than what we are. And he could be seeing a lot more people and a lot more need to want to turn that light on and try to positively identify whether or not people have weapons or not. So it's kind of like one of those little gray areas where I don't want to hit on it too hard with the quote unquote bashing, because we can't see what his eyes can see. But I kind of would have preferred that flashlight not stay on so much and act as a beacon. And there's a few points where he silhouettes his partner, and that flashlight's on his back. And if you were a bad guy and you were, I don't know, somewhere over here where my cursor's at, and this guy's flashlight beam right here was on his back, one, you would see the officer's flashlight originating point. And then you would see a nice little silhouette of a body right there in front of him. And if you were wanting to line your sights up on something, then you could line your sights up on that silhouette and pop off some rounds, and maybe you get a pretty good hit. If you were just aiming at the light, you don't know exactly what you're aiming at if that's all you can see is just that bright light. But a silhouette, I mean, it's a pretty easy target. Like, it's a human-shaped silhouette target, just like a concealed carry target with a little black shaped silhouette on there. All you gotta do is line your sights up on it and pull the trigger. So I would have preferred to see that, like I said, him not keep that flashlight turned on so long.
Right there, to the right. Show me your hands! Don't move!
Now, something piques their interest, and it's not exactly clear what or who piques their interest, but they, of course, shout some very loud, encouraging commands at this person, and then they abruptly just kind of leave them alone. So that's obviously something that is realistic, that can happen in a scenario like this. You may come across people who you think need to have guns pointed at them, and then later find out that you don't need to have your gun pointed at them. When I took active shooter training, there were multiple role players in the class, and you would start your scenario. You're in the start area, and then boom, you hear gunshots. There's a blank gun firing, and you move towards the sound of that gunfire, and then boom, all these people come out. And it is a lot to process when you've got multiple people moving, there's gunshots being fired, you're having to assess these people to see if they got weapons in them, and you're doing this in low light. So that's also going back to lights. That's right, why it's really important to have a really good flashlight, so that you can get as much data to your brain as possible. But there are times where, in the heat of the moment, you may think that someone needs to have a gun pointed at them, and boom, you find out, they didn't really need a gun pointed at them. That happens. That even happens in scenarios not even like this. This just happens in what people would call routine kind of incidents. But that's not uncommon to point your guns at people that don't need to have your guns pointed at them. They obviously quickly realize that whoever it is doesn't need any more attention, and they move on.
Move! Move!
Now you see what looked like a muzzle flash. Now I'll see if I can catch it again. Yeah, so go back. Muzzle flash occurs somewhere over in here. Right over in here where the cursor is doing the circling motion. I'll hit play one more time. Yeah, so there's a gun battle for sure going on. And they're close to it. Now, the news report also said that no officers fired any rounds during this incident. And it also mentioned that no officers returned fire. So that kind of makes me think that some officers were shot at. Now, later on in this video, you see a truck or SUV driving down the road and gunshots being fired. I personally think gunshots are being fired from that vehicle, and the officers don't return fire. And I would say they didn't return fire because there's just so many people around, and there is a lot of people around. That report on the radio from way beginning in the video where it said 300 people, I think there's probably more than 300 people at this thing.
Move, find cover, find cover! Get down, get down, stay down! We got multiple shooters everywhere. The street west of Detroit. Stay down, everybody stay down!
So these women are yelling that somebody's been shot. All right, I'll just pause it right there because there's not really much else to pause on to see things. This footage kind of sucks. But the woman in the background screaming that someone's been shot. And we see the officers continue to move around and look for threats. And although I went on a rant and said that, this is not a true active shooter event in the sense of like a Columbine or something like that, it is still an active gun battle. It is an active gang war, whatever terminology you want to call it. You can even call it active shooting, whatever. The tactics and everything from active shooters still apply to things like this. And so while you're searching for the threats, you cannot stop and render aid to people. Excuse me. If you stop to render aid to someone while gunshots are still going on, every gunshot you hear is someone dying or being disfigured and disabled to some degree for the rest of their life. So you have to move towards the sound of gunfire and make that sound of gunfire stop. That's when the true saving of lives occurs, is when you stop the threat. Then, and only then, can you go and start providing medical aid to people. And that is the reality that you're going to need to think about when you pre-plan for incidents like this. You're going to have to visualize walking past a person bleeding and not doing anything for them, and visualize people screaming at you, begging you to stop and do something. But you're going to have to keep going because, like I said, every gunshot you hear is someone dying or being disfigured or somehow disabled in some way for the rest of their life. Whether they're going to have to be in a wheelchair for the rest of their life, crutches, spoon-fed for the rest of their life, whatever. Every gunshot you hear is someone dying or being disfigured, dismembered, disabled some way for the rest of their life. Once you stop that threat, then is when you can go start providing medical aid. And this is where I go into my talk about medical. So we don't obviously see in the video any of the officers having to render medical aid to anyone. So it's anyone's guess what they have on them or what they don't have on them. But I see in a lot of videos that officers do not carry medical gear on their person. You do see in some places that officers carry tourniquets on their belts, and it's dependent upon agency. So some agencies really prefer that more Class A, Class B hybrid kind of uniform, and the classic what I would call the LAPD look. I think that one's probably an easy one for everyone to visualize what I mean by that. Classic patrol uniform. And, looking at that, they don't have the outer carrier vest or whatever. It's just a standard uniform shirt with badge and tie and all the little, shiny shit on it. So their belt, they have, a lot of agencies have the little tourniquet kydex holders on the belt. And that's about the extent of what you can put on a belt, is just put that tourniquet on there. And although I would like to see more, that's still better than nothing. And there are some agencies that do have outer vests, and again, it's dependent upon agency to agency, but there's some agencies where officers can just carry damn near anything on their outer vest, and you'll actually see some of them have what appears to be a medical pouch on the front of that. It's anyone's guess what's in them, but at least they're carrying a pretty big medical kit on them. There's maybe been only a couple videos I've seen where someone appeared to be pulling something from a medical ankle holster, and that's good, because that's telling me that they're carrying more on them than just a tourniquet. And I have a video on medical ankle holsters, and it's something I highly recommend that uniform people wear. If you're wearing an ankle holster for a gun, you can definitely wear an ankle medical holster on your other ankle and carry some pretty good life-saving equipment for not just yourself, but for your teammates. Now, when it comes to carrying that medical stuff for you and your teammates, now, obviously, in an incident like this, you could take that gear that was intended for you or your teammate and use it on people. But in a large incident like this, in this particular incident, 12 people were shot and injured. You're going to run out of medical gear real quick with what you are carrying on you, and you're going to have to triage. You're going to have to pick that person who you think that your pre-hospital care that you're giving is going to make the most difference. And so that brings in two things. One, you need to have some follow-on support medical gear that could be in your vehicle in the form of a large trauma bag that you can then treat more people. And then you're also going to have to learn about triage and have a little bit more medical knowledge to understand who has survivable wounds and who does not, and that what would make a difference. So on top of the medical gear that you carry on your person, and you should always be carrying it on you, just something minimum to deal with traumatic gunshot wounds. You should also have some type of trauma bag in your vehicle to supplement that, or to be able to address multiple people. And, between the medical gear that I carry on my person and the medical gear that I keep in my car, I could treat, depending on injuries and stuff like that, I could treat probably 5 to 6 people. And again, like I said, it depends on what kind of injuries they got. If they got, each person has, multiple injuries between, extreme hemorrhaging in their extremities and shots to their chest and stuff like that. Of course, having to use all my tourniquets and chest seals and stuff like that, that's going to decrease the number of people I'm going to be able to treat. But if it's like if it's a fair spread of kind of injuries, like I got like 1 or 2 people with gunshot wounds to the chest, and I got another person, with a gunshot wound to the leg, and one to the hand, and just little fair ones, spread out. I could probably treat a good 6 people with all the stuff I've got on me, and then maybe a little bit more. But as far as like some critical injuries and stuff, probably at most I could treat would be 3, but with all the gear I've got, and that's still a pretty good amount of number. But if it's just you on your team that's carrying all that stuff, then that's it. You're going to be running out of medical gear real quick. And so I would encourage you to encourage your teammates to carry more medical stuff. If you've got a pretty good working relationship with your local um, ambulance service, you could even maybe, I don't know, get some free stuff from them. Like every once in a while, like, hey, you got an extra bag valve mask, and, snag a bag valve mask from them, once a month, or, every time you see them kind of thing, or, get some, bandages and stuff like that, just over time, you can get some free stuff off the ambulance, and kind of supplement your stock of medical gear. And you're going to obviously have to buy some of this stuff on your own. But if you can get your company or your agency to buy some of that stuff, that's even better. But medical gear on your person is something you're going to need, and you're going to want some supplemental medical gear in your car. You don't want to keep everything in the car, because if you can't get back to your car in time, then all that medical gear is for naught. So you got to have some of it on you.
Right there, right there! Yeah, here. Get out of the house.
So yeah, I personally think that people from that vehicle were shooting at people. Obviously don't know for sure where, or if it's even for sure. It could have been someone on the street shooting at the vehicle as it was going by. But lots of shots fired during this incident, and not a single shot was fired from the police. And news reports said that about 70 officers in total ended up responding to this call. Now, obviously, not all 70 are going to get there at once. Probably at the very beginning stages of this, at most, probably 10 officers had gotten on scene. And then the others, showed up after the fact, which happens, pretty much all the time. Police are really more of a they react to things, they respond to things, kind of like the fire department. You get there after the house fire starts. And it's, not obviously saying anything bad about police, that's just the nature of the business. But 12 people shot, one person killed in this incident, and the news release said that none of the witnesses or anyone there on the scene was cooperating with the police. So, yeah, that crappy neighborhood, and the news report said they were having a 4th of July celebration party. Okay, it might have been July 4th when they were partying, but I guarantee you that none of those fuckers were celebrating America. I can assure you that, and probably quite a few of them, don't even like America. They probably allege America to be racist, and so, my town, 4th of July, we didn't have any of this crap happening. We didn't have people shooting each other. We might have had some people shoot some bottle rockets at each other. But we didn't have gangs fighting it out in the middle of the street at a block party, trying to kill each other and shooting multiple people. So trying to even say that these people were celebrating the 4th of July is a joke. And that was kind of one of those other rants that I went into, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. Not much else to say about this video. A lot was going on in this video. Lots of gunfire, lots of gunplay, lots of people around. A lot going on. Very high stress kind of situation here. It's one of those things. Obviously, this doesn't happen all the time, but as our society becomes more violent, and the criminals become more brazen, and the criminals become more empowered with stupid laws that are being passed that benefit them, and we have more stupid liberal judges that let criminals out at an alarming rate, stuff like this, may occur more. frequently, or we may see more things like this occurring in the future. Because the things that I'm seeing right now aren't leading me to believe that there's going to be a huge drop off and stop in this kind of crap right here. I only see things like this growing, so to speak. So, talked about rifles versus pistols. Talked about lights, low lights, tactics, and talked about medical. And those are the big things I like to touch on in these videos, the things that seem most prevalent. I'm going to leave it at that. If you like what you see in here, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you've have not already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Head on over to the Facebook page and do the same over there. Stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.